Hey guys, I'm glad you could join me. Come on in and have a seat. I got a banger for you today. Lately, when I've been talking about in some of my past few videos about how we got to watch the message that we put out, because you never know what it'll trigger in somebody and you end up with some mass casualty event or something, silly like that. And I make the comment, it's like they flipped a switch inside the head. And I noticed somebody picked up on that in the comments section on one of my videos. So I figured there might be more of you out there that see things in a similar way, much like I do. And in this video, I'm going to explain to you why I chose my words that way. Let's roll it.
Rockefeller University, Science for the Benefit of Humanity. Now this is an article from the Rockefeller University, the Science for the Benefit of Humanity. We got a little article I'd like to go through with you. Now, of course, the Rockefellers, you shouldn't have to have me explain who they are, and I want to bring your attention to an article called Flipping a Switch Inside the Head. With new technology, scientists are able to exert wireless control over brain cells of mice with just the push of a button. The first thing they did was make the mice hungry. Okay, this is by Wyatt Gibbs, April 1st, 2017. Ready your tinfoil hats. Mind control is not as far-fetched an idea as it may seem. In Jeffrey M. Friedman's laboratory, it happens all the time, though the subjects are mice, not people. Friedman and his colleagues have demonstrated a radio-operated remote control for the appetite and glucose metabolism of mice, a sophisticated technique to wirelessly alter neurons in the animal's brains. At the flick of a switch, they are able to make mice hungry or suppress their appetite while the mice go on about their lives normally. It's a tool they are using to unravel the neurological basis of eating, and it is likely to have applications for studies of other hardwired behaviors, like rage. Friedman, Marilyn M. Simpson, professor, has been working on the technique for several years with Sarah Stanley, a former postdoc in his lab who is now assistant professor at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai and collaborators at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Aware of the limitations of existing methods for triggering brain cells in living animals, the group set out to invent a new way. An ideal approach, they reasoned, would be as non-invasive and non-damaging as possible, and it should work quickly and repeatedly. Although there are other ways to deliver signals to neurons, each has its limitations. In deep brain stimulation, for example, scientists thread a wire through the brain and place an electrode next to the target cells. But implant can damage nearby cells and tissues in ways that interfere with normal behavior. Optogenetics, which works similarly but uses fiber optics and a pulse of light rather than electricity, has the same issue. A third strategy, using drugs to activate genetically modified cells bred into the mice. It's less invasive, but drugs are slow to take effect and wear off. The solution that Friedman's group hit upon, referred to as radiogenetics or magnetogenetics, avoids these problems. With their methods, published last year in Nature, biologists can turn neurons on or off in a live animal at will, quickly, repeatedly, and without implants, by engineering the cells to make them receptive to radio waves or a magnetic field. We've combined molecules already used in cells for other purposes in a manner that allows an invisible force to take control of an instinct as primal as hunger, Friedman says. The method links 5 very different biological tools, which can look whimsically convoluted, like a Rube Goldberg contraption on a molecular scale. It relies on a green fluorescent protein borrowed from jellyfish, a particular antibody derived from camels, squishy bags of iron particles, and the cellular equivalent of a door made from a membrane-piercing protein, all delivered and installed by a genetically engineered virus. The remote control for this contraption is a modified welding tool, though a store-bought magnet also works. The researchers' first challenge was to find something in a neuron that can serve as an antenna to detect the incoming radio signal or magnetic field. The logical choice was ferritin, a protein that stores iron in cells in balloon-like particles, just a dozen nanometers wide. Iron is essential to cells but can also be toxic, so it is sequestered in ferritin particles until it is needed. Each ferritin particle carries with it thousands of grains of iron that wiggle around in response to a radio signal and shift and align when immersed in a magnetic field. We all have these particles shimmying around inside our brain cells, but the motions normally have no effect on neurons. Friedman's team realized that they could use a genetically engineered virus to create doorways into a neuron's outer membrane. If they could then somehow attach a door to a ferritin particle, they reasoned they might be able to wiggle the ferritin enough to jostle the door open. The door we chose is called TRPV1. Stanley says, once TRPV1 is activated, calcium and sodium ions would next flow into the cell and trigger the neuron to fire. The bits borrowed from camels and jellyfish provided what the scientists needed to connect the door to the ferritin. Once the team had the new control mechanism working, they put it to the test. For Friedman and Stanley is to unravel the biological causes of overeating and obesity. The first application was obvious. Try to identify specific neurons involved in appetite. The group modified glucose-sensing neurons, cells that are believed to monitor blood sugar levels in the brain and keep them within normal range, to put them under wireless control. To accomplish this, they inserted the TRPV1 and ferritin genes into a virus using yet another genetic trick, injected them into the glucose-sensing neurons. They could then fiddle with the cells to see whether they are involved, as suspected, in coordinating feeding and the release of hormones such as insulin and glucagon that keep blood glucose levels in check. Once the virus had enough time to infect and transform the target neurons, the researchers switched on a radio transmitter tuned to 465 kilohertz, a little below the band used for AM radio. The neurons responded. They began to fire, signaling a shortage of glucose even though the animal's blood sugar levels were normal. And other parts of the body responded just as they would to a drop in blood sugar. Insulin levels fell, the liver started pumping out more glucose, and the animal started eating more. In effect, Friedman says, we created a perceptual illusion that the animal had low blood glucose, even though the levels were normal. Inspired by the results, the researchers wondered if magnetism, like radio waves, might trigger ferritin to open the cellular doors. It did. When the team put the mice cages close to an MRI machine or waved a rare earth magnet over the animals, their glucose-sensing neurons were triggered. Stimulating an appetite is one thing. Could they also suppress it? The group tweaked the TRPV1 gene so it would pass chloride, which acts to inhibit neurons. Now, when inserted the modified TRPV1 into neurons, the rush of chloride made the neurons behave as if the blood was overloaded with glucose. Insulin production surges in the animals, and they ate less. This seems to indicate clearly that the brain as well as the pancreas is involved in glucose regulation, Friedman says. Friedman and Stanley hope that biologists will be able to use the remote control system to tackle a range of neural processes other than appetite. And beyond being a basic research tool, the method could potentially lead to novel therapies for brain disorders. For example, one could imagine using it to treat Parkinson's disease or essential tremor, conditions that are sometimes treated by deep brain stimulation via wires implanted into patients' brains and connected to a battery pack tucked into their chest. Potentially, it would be less invasive to inject the crippled virus into the same spot of the brain and let it permanently modify the cells there, making them responsive to wireless control. Are you paying attention? In theory, it might be possible to make patients' own cells receptive to electromagnetic waves by removing them from the body, delivering a TRPV1 and ferritin, and then putting the cells back, Friedman says. This would be a protocol not unlike those currently used in stem cell treatments and some cancer immunotherapies, in which patients' own cells are engineered and reimplanted back into their bodies. At this point, however, the system's clinical usefulness is a question of speculation. We're a long way off from using it on humans for medical treatments, Friedman said. Much would need to be done before it could be tested. At this point, however, the system's clinical usefulness is a question of speculation. We're a long way off from using it in humans for medical treatments, but not medical experiments, Friedman says. Much would need to be done before it could even be tested. Now, this is a short clip that I picked up. It was from the Department of Defense. It goes back to 2005, where they discuss how they've isolated what they call a VMAT2 gene and how they can use a specific type of jab to manipulate behavior.
Here we have individuals who are religious fundamentalists, religious fanatics, and this is the expression, RT-PCR, real-time PCR expression of the VMAT2 gene. Over here we have individuals. So let me complete. So over here we have individuals who are not particularly fundamentalist, not particularly religious, and you can see there's a much reduced expression of this particular gene, the VMAT2 gene. Another evidence that supports our hypothesis for the development of this approach. What you see
here is that by spreading this virus, we're going to eliminate individuals from donning on a bomb vest and going into a market and blowing up the market.
So our hypothesis is that these are fanatical people, that they have overexpression of the VMAT2 gene, and that by vaccinating them against this, we'll eliminate this behavior.
So yeah, they've been working on this stuff for a long time. I believe it has a lot to do with the amount of crazy on a day-to-day basis. You can't even turn on your TV or scroll through your YouTube feed without another mass casualty event or some explosion or some sort of a riot. I mean, and when you look at these dead-eyed people screaming, I mean, these people are not themselves. So, odds are, you already have it in your arm if you're one of those people that roll up your sleeve every time that next runny nose comes out.
Well, there you have it, guys. What do you think? I really believe there's something to this. It's at least probable, right? They're telling you what they're going to do. That last video was from 2005. So we're 20 years, that's 20 years ago. How far do you think they brought that research since then? They don't fund anything, the Department of Defense or the government, unless there's a potential possibility to weaponize it. You think they give a about any one of us? Of course they don't. So if you want to see more videos like this, guys, because I got a few more rabbit holes for you, and I'm starting to upgrade my equipment. I want to give you guys, I don't want you to look at me in 4K. I don't think I can do that to you, but 1080, I got to at least give you 1080, so I have to apologize for that, but I do kind of got to get with the times, right? So until the next one, guys, man, stay vigilant. Keep your wits about you. Stay armed. And we'll holler at you later.